Hey everybody, how are you? This is Michelle Gardner-Ince, host of Demystifying Government Contracting. We're doing a live stream today. We're streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even Twitter. I can't tell you how excited I am to get started on this session. Hey, you guys, let me know if you're out there, and you can put your questions in the chat. But first, I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of overview of what demystifying government contracting is all about, because it's been a minute since we've been on Facebook and YouTube. We regularly do LinkedIn audio sessions. But we're glad to welcome our Facebook community, welcome YouTube and Twitter. Hey, what's up, Tanisha? Thank you for chiming in over there on LinkedIn, one of our regular attendees. But I'm Michelle Gardner-Ince, aka GI. I've never been without an ID card. I'm a military veteran, military brat, military spouse. And all of my adult life has been around helping military and veteran members and their families, supporting them in an entrepreneurial way. That's everything from child cares to department stores, grocery stores, hotels, restaurants, etc. Anything that the military community needed to support its military members and their families. With that said, I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship, and this whole demystifying government contract effort started in 2022. Um, uh, LinkedIn started its, no, really 2021. LinkedIn started its audio feature, and I wanted to use that opportunity to beta test that system to enable the underserved, um, veteran, minority, woman, LGBTQ plus disabled community. And so I believe that there's not a shortage of information out there. However, guess what? Knowing what to do and when to do it and how to do it, and executing that information is a whole nother story. So with that, please chime in on LinkedIn, Facebook, and if you're watching on YouTube, tell us who you are. Put your business in the chat, because demystifying government contracting is all about enabling the community. We want to shout you out. I'll put a few advertisements of your business and who you are on the screen as we go along. But tonight, we are so blessed to have a gentleman that I met on the LinkedIn platform, and was very, very much impressed with not only who he is, but what he has done. And that really centers around something I know very little about, and that's crowdfunding. And we have an opportunity to hear from one of Inc. Corporation. You know, they have all of these designations where they group the best of the best. And Bill Houston is one of 19 top experts recognized by Inc. in the crowdfunding arena. He's got a passion for underserved communities and helping them to leverage that information for their business, for their nonprofits. He's been around in the industry for. I'm gonna yield on the lighter side, because he don't look like he's old enough to have this amount of information, but and intellect in this particular arena. But 20 plus years. I know it's a little bit more than that, but we're gonna err on the lighter side there, Bill. How are you? And thank you for joining us.
I am doing well. I am honored to be here. Thank you very much for your service, and any veterans who are out there, absolutely thank you for your service. I was in the military. I was in the Army for 5 years, and
Thank you for your
you know,
service.
probably the best thing that I did, in my life. So, absolutely, there's for me, it's always a big debt to be paid, to veterans because you all keep us safe, and
Look,
we
can I
really
ask you,
appreciate that.
what made you choose Army? Because I'm Air Force. I'm just trying to understand what made you go in the Army line versus the Air Force or the Navy line.
So, my great uncle, he was in the army. My dad was in the army. Um, and the only other branch that I looked at was the Marine Corps, and that wasn't really my cup of tea. Uh, so I chose the Army. I was able to get a really good skill in the Army. So I was a 92 beat 10. So I worked as a medical lab tech. I actually had the opportunity to be stationed at the Presidio of San Francisco, which was an unbelievable duty. So
Wow.
I loved it. The Army was good.
Well, tell me, hey, greetings, Kathy, Dr. Latasha, Cameron. Thank you all for joining us, Tanisha. Before we get into hearing this amazing information, I hope this won't be the last time you come in and visit with us here on Demystifying Government Contracting. It'll be almost 18 months here at the end of this year, and we address different topics and bring different speakers. But I always like to hear a little bit of your history, right? So you were in the Army. So how did we get from Army to crowdfunding? What happened? What drove this passion and your desire to enter this particular arena, which is major in leveraging people we know, our ideas into making a difference and reducing the gap for capital with small businesses. How did that happen? And then I'll let you go on after this. I'll talk a little bit more about you, and then we'll get on into your your presentation and information.
So that's a really great question. So I'll start this with growing up in the Cincinnati area. I turned 18. I joined the Army. I I did basic training Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Um,
Hey, little known fact. Do you know I went to high school there, but we'll come back to that.
oh, how unfortunate! There was nothing there. Now I was in basic training, so there was nothing to I mean, I was training all the time. And I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. I was down there for 16 weeks of medical lab training, which was pretty good. San Antonio was a very interesting city. And then I got stationed at the Presidio of San Francisco, and that was like life changing for me. While I was there, I worked on a weekend shift at the hospital in the emergency lab services. And so during the week, so I worked 32 hours on the weekend, and during the week, I had the whole week off. So I went to San Francisco City College during the week, and what I was able to do during the week was, I went to school and I was able to get an associate's degree in natural sciences. I got out of the Army. I came back. I came back to Cincinnati. I worked for the Cincinnati Health Department for about 5 years, and then I kind of transitioned into some other positions. One of the things that was interesting to me in retrospect is I've always kind of felt like I was an entrepreneur trapped in a working person's body. And
I can relate.
for people who aren't old enough to remember like the 80s and the 90s and what life was like before the internet, before you could sit down and start $1 million business at your kitchen table. It's being an entrepreneur required a lot of capital, right? And that is thus changed with the internet and the advent of the internet. So in about 2007, I'm gonna fast forward there really quickly. About 2007, my son and I, we started a business called H2 Communications. And what we did was, he was a videographer, so he would shoot videos, create videos for people, and I would market them on Facebook and Twitter, right? Those were the only two
And
social
what
media
year?
platforms.
What year was this?
This
Just
is around 2007.
okay.
Around 2007, and we, we had this company called H2 Communications. So fast forward that to about 2011, and so we had gone through the Great Recession, which that was, if you didn't live through that, that was something else. I'd never seen anything like that before. Um, so my son was in this program called Community Action Partnership, CAP.
Mm.
And there was a lady named Rebecca, a really nice lady, who was the director of the program. And so it was 7 businesses who were in the program at the time, mostly women and minorities, but not all. And people were struggling for capital. I think that if you finished CAP, you received the $5,000 grant, right? And it's just, everybody on this call, I'm sure, understands that. What are you going to do with $5,000, right? In the business world, it's just, I mean, thanks, I appreciate it, but that's not really going to help me with my business. So this Rebecca told us that there was this really cool website called Kickstarter. And she said if you shot a really cool video, people would give you money. So one Saturday, we shot 7 videos for everybody who was in the program. Rebecca put them up on Kickstarter. And as you can imagine, we raised absolutely nothing. Zero. Zilch. And so I found it interesting because I started looking at Kickstarter, I started looking at Indiegogo, and what I discovered were a couple of things. One was that people would really fund businesses. They really would. People who did not know you at all, people from different countries, would literally send you money to fund your business if you told a good enough story. And the second and most important thing that I learned, and this to this day drives my strategy and my approach to crowdfunding, is this one fundamental rule. And that is, if you do not build an exciting and engaged crowd, you will not get the funding that you're looking for. It doesn't matter if it's rewards crowdfunding, doesn't matter if it's investment crowdfunding. You have to build an excited and engaged crowd, or people are not going to contribute or invest in your business. And that has kind of been my driving force, since I found out about crowdfunding in about 2011. So what I did was I started working on people's campaigns. I would work on them for free. I was absolutely just engrossed.
And these were crowdfunding campaigns.
Yes,
Or
yes.
these were
I would work on.
okay.
Yeah, I would work on people's crowdfunding campaigns. If somebody wanted me to do Twitter now, for younger people, you probably can't imagine the day when there weren't all these social media platforms. But there was a time when there was only Twitter and Facebook, and no Facebook ads. And I would work on people's campaigns, and I started to get pretty good at it. And people's campaigns started to become successful. I was able to help people build crowds, and then I was able to start charging people to do this. And that was really interesting. So in 2014, Inc. magazine named me one of the top 19 global crowdfunding experts for startups to know. I'm still not 100% sure what that meant, but it was really good for business. It was really, really good for business.
Well, if I could jump in, as a person who has made it their passion and mission to help others generate capital for good, whether that's the good of their business or the good of their particular nonprofit or effort. Um, and you're an author, you're passionate about educating, others via digital courses and other mediums, all about helping others understand this particular opportunity, this particular stream of capital. But tell us, if someone like me who's starting out square one doesn't know anything about crowdfunding, would you start us at 101 crowdfunding? And then let's talk about how you're revolutionizing the way crowdfunding is done and why and for whom.
Absolutely. And thank you for focusing me. So what I'll say is that the first thing to understand about crowdfunding is that crowdfunding is a compound word, and you have to build a crowd, right? Without the crowd, nothing else you do makes any difference. You can have the best campaign page. If you're doing investment crowdfunding, you can have the absolute best terms in the world. You can have the best product or service in the world. But if no one knows about it and no one is excited about it and engaged with you about what it is that you're doing, you're not going to be able to raise the money. So when I think about crowdfunding, the way I tell people about crowdfunding and what it so I come from that Southern Baptist background, and every Sunday and every Wednesday we crowdfunded, right? And what do I mean by that? Is that they would pass the basket, right? And they expected people to contribute. So what I was really contributing to was there was a large group of people who were contributing a small amount of dollars for one specific purpose. That was to keep the doors open, the lights on, the water running, right? To keep the church focusing. That's what crowdfunding is. It is no more complex than that, right? At its very essence, it is a large group of people contributing small amounts of dollars for a particular goal. That's it. So that's the first thing that I want people to understand. There's no magic to this. It's been going on forever, right? Is now in about 2009, what happened was the advent of the internet and websites that were interactive. So now people could literally go on and engage with the world. So when you think about crowdfunding, please think about the crowd, how you build the crowd, how you excite and engage that crowd, because without that crowd, nothing else you do is going to matter. So the second thing that I would say in crowdfunding 101, there are four types of crowdfunding. The first type of crowdfunding is just pure donation crowdfunding. You'll see it sometimes when people are in distress, if there's a disaster, if someone has an illness or dies unexpectedly, people will go to a platform like GoFundMe. And, people will just contribute, right? Because it's the right thing to do, because they want to help someone. And it's just a pure donation. So that's one type of crowdfunding. Same as with church. It's just a pure donation. Then you have rewards crowdfunding. So early on, when mostly people who were creatives were doing this, they would give out T-shirts, coffee mugs, hats, albums, pieces of art that they had created, and that was rewards crowdfunding. And then it slowly moved into people using it for business, right? To pre-sell their product. So let's say, for instance, I had an iPhone case, and I just had a prototype, right? I hadn't really built the iPhone case because I didn't have the funds to build the iPhone case. So what I do is I start a campaign, a rewards campaign, and maybe I need $10,000 to do that first run. So literally, what is going on here is I am getting people to pay me in advance. And then at some point in the future, I am going to deliver that product to them. It sounds kind of far-fetched when you take a step back and you think about that, right? Like you would never do that at the store, right? But this is something that has really caught on. It is it is caught on to the tune of billions of dollars. But that's rewards crowdfunding. So rewards crowdfunding can be just a simple, pure reward, like a T-shirt or a cup. But in the business sense, what it's really turned into a lot is me providing you with, some type of the product that I am literally crowdfunding for. And then on May 16th, 2016, the 2012 Jobs Act was signed into law, bipartisan, by President Obama. It took until 2016, May 16th, 2016, for regulation crowdfunding to become the law. Regulation crowdfunding, investment crowdfunding, Title III, those all mean the same thing. It is regulation crowdfunding. And what you were allowed to do there for the first time in 80 years in the United States, regular people, non-accredited, non-wealthy people were allowed to invest in private deals, right? What is a private deal? It is a deal that you can invest in before a company becomes public, right? So if you think about why that's really important, think about how much money people made with Apple or Facebook, at the IPO when they went public. And people made a lot of money, and they purchased the stock and they held the stock for a while and it went up, right? And that's a beautiful story. But as Paul Harvey used to say, here's the rest of the story, right? And the rest of the story is this: that the people who invested in those companies pre-IPO, when those companies were private, when those companies went public at the IPO, they hit a bonanza, right? Because they were buying stock at 25 cents, 30 cents. And all the shares that they accumulated went public, they were worth, like now some of those companies are worth, $600-700 a share. So there was a tremendous amount of money made. So I'm going to share a real quick story about the difference between rewards crowdfunding and equity crowdfunding and the difference that it makes. So there was a company called Oculus Rift. And if you've ever seen those headsets, those visors that people wear, the first ones were created by Oculus. And the Oculus Rift, they raised like $3 million on Kickstarter from a whole bunch of people. And all those people were able to actually get these headsets. Okay. Now I want you to listen really closely to me, because equity crowdfunding wasn't legal. So I parted with my $100 or whatever it was to get this headset. 3 years later, Facebook purchased them for $3 billion, $3 billion with a B. And my initial investment of that $100, I still had my headset that was 3 years old. Had equity crowdfunding been around and I purchased, 1,000 shares, 100 shares, then I would have been able to cash out, when they were purchased by Facebook by $3 billion, because I would have been a shareholder and not just someone who had purchased the product. That is the power of investment crowdfunding. Is every campaign going to be like that? Is every business going to be like that? No, most businesses are not going to be successful. But, how many businesses like that do you need to have in order to have a good portfolio, right? And that's how venture capital works, right?
So, Bill, let me ask you, I just attempted to type the 4 types based on what you mentioned, and I put them on the screen. I want to make sure I've got them correct. Donation, a rewards crowdfunding or pre-sale crowdfunding. The third one is investing, and is the fourth one equity? Did I get that correct?
So the fourth one is going to be debt.
Debt.
Right? So,
okay.
Investment crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, those are all the same.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So the fourth one is going to be debt. And what a debt crowdfunding campaign looks like is, and this is pretty simple, right? The equity might be a little difficult to understand. This is pretty simple. You go to the bank, you get a loan. The bank loans you money. They charge you interest, right? So you pay them back. So you pay the bank back its principal and interest, right? So what debt crowdfunding allows us to do as a group of non-accredited investors is it allows us to become the bank, right? So, which is really powerful. And when we think about and talk about equity crowdfunding, and I don't want to get too much ahead of what I want to talk about tonight, but the real power in equity crowdfunding for the person who is using it, the issuer, is that you get to set the terms. You set the terms however you like. Now, obviously, if the terms don't make sense, no one's going to invest. But you have the power to set the terms. And, just a real quick rhetorical question here. How many times have you gone to the bank and told them what the interest rate was going to be? No, they have all the power. They have all the power. Venture capitalists have all the power. And most of the time, in fairness to venture capitalists, most businesses don't fit the venture model. That's
Mhm.
why so many companies are turned down for venture capital, is because they just don't fit that model. So that would be my introduction to crowdfunding, understanding what crowdfunding is at the essence, understanding the importance of building the crowd,
Mhm.
and then really having understanding of the different types of crowdfunding and how they can be used. So maybe you do a rewards crowdfunding campaign. You get those iPhone cases built, you start selling them, you develop a business,
Uh,
and now you're really ready for some growth. So now you take that business and you offer equity where you can raise up to $5 million.
so having said that, most of our crowd is a crowd, no pun intended. Our audience are interested in government contracting, right? They're interested in how do I um, possibly use this new, tool that I'm just learning about, or get more information. But how could it benefit a government contracting small business?
So first, what I would say is that if you're a small business and you're looking to grow, if you're a small business working with government contracts, and you want to expand the size of the contracts that you're able to get, but you need capital to do that, then this may be the tool for you. Investment crowdfunding may absolutely be the tool for you. And the reason I say that is that this is a way for you to access capital, right? So the capital is not in a group of limited partners, right, in a VC firm. And this capital is not in the bank. This capital is in your crowd. Your money is in your crowd, right? So if you're able to build and excite a crowd of investors, then you'll be able to raise this capital. Now, let's think about a few scenarios and what that looks like. So let's say you come from a particular geographical community, um, and maybe a lot of these people, they want to get into business, but they're not necessarily entrepreneurs, right? So they can get into business right along with you as investors in your business, right? So maybe going to a particular community that you have a good affinity with, maybe as government contractors, people who are on listening tonight, people who listen to Michelle on the regular, maybe you all want to, maybe there are a few businesses that if they came together, it might make sense for them to come together so that they could get a larger contract. Here's an opportunity, right, to create a different entity, in some type of joint venture, as long as it's a legal business entity, and be able to raise capital from the crowd, up to $5 million. You can raise up to $5 million in any 365-day period. And that capital could then be used to buy equipment, licenses, whatever it is that you need. This is a tool to be able to access capital, right? So as a government contractor, as someone looking to procure government contracts, this is an opportunity for you to raise capital, especially if you find yourself in a particular group, women, minorities. We're all aware, and if you're not aware, I'm going to make you aware of the statistics, about being able to access bank loans. About 4% of SBA loans go to women and minority businesses. Um, Less than 2% of venture capital goes to women and minority businesses. So those are realities, right? Those are the realities that exist out there for people who are looking for capital. So when you think about those things, and you think about making sure that you have your credit score, making sure that if I go to a bank, as a matter of fact, I was talking to a potential client today, and it was really interesting. So we were talking about crowdfunding, and they find themselves in a position where they may be able to get a loan for the money. And what was really interesting about this was the first thing that this potential client said was that, but the bank's going to make us leverage all of our business assets, right? So if that money's not paid back, then they're going to take those business assets. And that's not going to happen in the crowdfunding space, right? Because people are taking the risk along with you, right? Especially if you're using equity. They are fully aware of the risk in investing in startup businesses. You make them aware, the platform makes them aware, and long before they actually give up that investment, they get a 48-hour period to say, I don't know that I want to do this, right? So everything is transparent about crowdfunding, but really what crowdfunding does for any small business or startup is it provides you with a wider access of investors, right? There's a larger pool of investors. I focus a lot on startup businesses, so forgive me a little bit if I talk about like venture capitalists. So when you think about venture capitalists, when you think about angel investors, like these guys are not walking around the streets, looking for people, right? They are in a very tight knit community. And if I don't have access to that community, then, or an introduction to access to that community, then my chances of getting venture capital are slim to none. So if you think about what that model looks like, if you're trying to get venture capital, what you do is you put all your marketing materials together, you pack that up, and you go around to these people, to these groups, to these investors, and you pitch your business to them. What equity crowdfunding does is it turns that funnel completely upside down. You make one campaign, you create that campaign on a portal, an SEC and FINRA regulated portal. When you put it on that portal, everybody gets the same information. Everybody gets the same terms. And what makes that really powerful is that it is completely transparent, right? So based on the compliance there, you can't make forward looking statements, right? You can't say that 10 years down the road we're going to make $1 billion. The SEC's that's not going to fly, right? What they want to know is where you are right now. What did you make last year, right? And and then people get this transparent information, and then they are able to make that decision for themselves. The other thing that's really powerful about investment crowdfunding is that you can buy equity in a company for as little sometimes as $100, right? If you're a non-accredited investor, you can go up to on average about $2,500 per year. Another thing that's really good about that is if you can invest $100 per campaign, then you can diversify yourself across multiple campaigns, multiple platforms, and multiple industries with $2,000. That's a real possibility. So, for the investors, there are a lot of advantages to this. But since I'm talking to a group of small businesses, we're going to keep this focused on the business owner.
So Bill, I wanted to let you make whatever the other points are, because we have some questions also in the chat. I just wanted to let you know. So I don't know. Would you like to take those, or would you like to tell me how you'd like to?
Yeah, so I can take questions until we get to a lull. And the reason I like to take questions is some of this information may resonate and hit with people, but questions that people have are real life situations, right? So this is something somebody wants to know. So yeah, I'm absolutely ready to take questions.
Okay, I'm putting it on the screen now. How do you build the crowd? This is coming from Kathy. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for the question. This is the tricky part. But the way you build the crowd is you start from the inside out. You start with the people closest to you, people who you know will support you, right? So what crowdfunding is, what capital raising is, and this is not just crowdfunding, but this is really particular to crowdfunding, is you start by converting your social capital into financial capital over time. That probably sounds really technical, but you ask people if they'll invest. Right, you're allowed to reach out to people. So when you have an investment crowdfunding campaign, I like to split it into two campaigns. There's one called Testing the Waters, where you're allowed to actually go out and solicit reservations for your campaign. This does a couple of things. One of the things that it does is it allows you to kind of judge the interest in your campaign before you start hiring lawyers and accountants, right? Because they're really expensive. So if you can't get people that people that you have relationships with, people that they know, to take an interest in this campaign, maybe the answer is no. And you need to go back and look at your campaign again and revise your campaign. And you can still do that in the testing the waters phase. Once your campaign goes live, you've reached. So there's a minimum and a maximum amount that you raise. So the minimum, when you hit the minimum, if that's $50,000, $25,000, whatever that minimum is, then your campaign is successful. The Form C is then filed with the SEC. Then your campaign is live and people are actually investing in you. So building that crowd in the testing the waters phase is really, really important. Some of the tactics that I use are email marketing, text messaging, face-to-face conversations with people, especially people who I know, right? And getting these people excited about what it is that I'm doing, getting them engaged. And the most important part of that process is getting them to share this with their networks and their communities.
There's another question, a follow-on question that Kathy had. When you say allow this federally regulated, I think she's saying when you say allow, is this federally regulated? And meaning that once you do the test, then it goes through a review process, or what happens there?
Yes. So you have, let me take a step back and explain what the Form C is. I just kind of glossed over that. The Form C has all the information about the business. It has the business plan. It has the financials. And those financials have to be Gap financials. Even if you don't have financials, they still require you to do that. That one kind of makes me scratch my head. But so that Form C is, after you test the waters, is then filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And once it's filed with them, then the campaign is live after you've hit the successful amount. So to answer, yes, this is federally regulated by the SEC and FINRA. This was legislation, the 2012 Jobs Act, signed into law by President Obama, was by maybe only the only bipartisan legislation during his administration, but it was bipartisan, and it came after the Great Recession, and banks weren't lending, and they were trying to get money into the hands of small businesses and startups, right, to start creating jobs. So yes, this is federal. So there were, for a while, there were state laws, right? I was actually on a LinkedIn Live with a lady from Georgia, and they do intrastate. I know a lady from Illinois, an attorney from Illinois, who does intrastate crowdfunding. So intrastate crowdfunding existed, but there were some limitations to it, right? And each state had its own different laws. This federal law supersedes all of those. So anywhere in the United States, you can raise capital using regulation crowdfunding, as long as your business is registered in the United States. Doesn't matter what state it's registered in. There are businesses that are actually in other countries, but they're registered right in the United States, so they can raise capital using Reg CF. It is absolutely regulated. If you want my opinion, it is overregulated. I don't think it needs to be this regulated, because no one stops me from going to casino and gambling. I understand why they're so concerned about what I do with a couple $1,000, investing in businesses. There have been,
but it is a form of taking a chance, and I guess there's probably other forces uh, behind that. The gambling might be, the reason, the revenue it brings to the states, the schools, that kind of thing. It might be some of the reason the other arenas are not as regulated. We got another question, but before if you'll look at the question on the screen, Bill, before I go back to you, I want to thank everybody for joining Demystifying Government Contracting, a special session with Mr. Bill Houston of CrowdFix, and is just giving us a master class and awareness about a tool to generate capital that can be used to expand our business, to bring our community in on our business, giving them a certain percentage. And I want to come back because somebody has a question on the screen, but I didn't do my disclaimer. 9 to 5, I am a federal employee of the Department of Veteran Affairs. Everything that Bill and I are talking about are our opinions, our own. None of this is endorsed by the Department of Federal of Veteran Affairs or any other federal agency. We ask that you trust but verify, consult professionals before, and do your own research before taking any action. So now back over to you, Bill. I do want to thank everybody for joining. Looks like LinkedIn user, and I don't know who you are, LinkedIn user, but I must not be connected to you because your name is not coming up. So if you would kindly put that in the chat as well. But they're saying, thanks, Bill, for this amazing topic. Would you share what traditional ROI is based on the current market practices? For example, is 10% too low for equity crowdfunding?
So I'm not sure I fully understand the question. So what I'll do is I'll kind of explain how like venture capital works.
Or investment in the business. I don't know if they're talking about like equity, so like giving them a piece like of your business. I think that might be what they're talking about. I don't know.
So the first thing I want to say is, and I said this a little earlier, and this is one of the benefits of investment crowdfunding, is that you set the terms, right? So the first question I always get from people is, is somebody going to take my business? No, unless you allow them to do it, right? If you sell, 60-70% of your business, yeah, that's possible. But normally you are not going to give up that much of your business to get this capital. So that's the first thing, is that you get to set the terms. When I'm assuming that like this 10% would be maybe what you would get on the market for interest, right? Based on current interest rates. So with equity, you might be looking at someone telling you, especially in real estate. In business, it's a little bit different because you have no idea how successful or not successful a business is going to be, right? Most businesses fail, and and I'm like not afraid to say that because that is the reality. And the way that venture capitalists work, right, is a venture capitalist, let's say, for instance, may have a portfolio of 10 companies, and they know 9 of those companies are going to fail. And their hope is that one of those companies is going to 50x and make up for all the money that they lost, right? So I don't necessarily think that there's a traditional return on investment in a business, where you're actually selling the equity, if I understand that question correctly.
Yeah. And if we didn't, then they can come back and clarify further, since there's a little gray about what the intent or what the context of the question is. We got a couple more questions, if you don't mind, Bill.
Yeah, can I continue to address this question?
Sure.
So there are other ways. We mentioned equity, right? There's revenue sharing. There are other ways to raise capital from the crowd, right? So if you do a debt raise, then you're going to compete with market rates, right? So if I were raising capital on the debt market, and I was way above a bank, then probably no one would invest in that, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
have to be competitive. There are a couple of platforms. I don't know if it's okay to name the platforms, but there's Mainvest. They do revenue share. They focus on and specialize in that for small businesses. SMBX, they actually issue a bond and pay monthly interest for companies that raise money on their platform. And Honeycomb Credit, whom I've actually done some work with Honeycomb Credit, and I'm on a board with one of the members of Honeycomb Credit, somebody who works at Honeycomb Credit. They actually raise using straight debt. You borrow some money, you borrow that money at 10% from the crowd instead of the bank, and they pay you back your initial investment, and 10% over the period of the loan. So if you're raising debt, then that debt, the terms that you set with that debt, have to be competitive with what's out there in the market, or people won't invest.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I'm just with the market. Okay. All right. So someone, JD, James A. JD, is talking about um, uh, all crowdsourcing campaigns are different. What are some of the models and techniques you use to get the crowd excited or motivated? I don't know if it's excitement and motivation, a combination of all and then some.
Yeah, so JD brings up a very good point. Is that all campaigns are different? Everybody's investor personas are different, right? So you have to look at each campaign. So when I work with someone, after we look at their marketing assets that they already have, then the very next step that we do is we look at who is going to be the most likely person to invest, right? So we call that the investor persona. So we want to create anywhere between 3 and 5 of these investor personas. And as we're creating these investor personas, we are looking at the demographics of this person. We're looking at the income of this person. If it's a person who has invested before, what kind of campaigns, or what kind of investments did they make? What industries are they interested in? What industries do they focus on? Right. A lot of times when you look for investors, people who invest in real estate are not necessarily going to be um, they're not going to be the same people who are investing in tech startups. People who invest in small businesses are not necessarily going to be the same people who invest, in a fintech business. And the reason for that is because different investors are going to have a different appetite for risk. Right. And, when you think about that appetite for risk, if you're investing in debt, you're going to be pretty sure that these companies are already generating revenue. If they weren't, it would be very hard for them to qualify for debt. So, these businesses are going to be more established. Whereas if your appetite for risk is much higher, then you're going to maybe be looking at, it's something that's innovative. You're definitely going to be looking at equity and an opportunity to hit a home run, right? To hit it all the way out of the park. That's what you're going to be looking at. So, when you think about who your investor is, you're going to have to roll all of those things into what your investor persona looks like. You're going to have to ask all those questions. And then you want to start drilling down into those investor personas. And the reason that you want to do that is you want to find the person who is most likely to invest in your particular offer. Again, if you have a fintech platform, as a for instance, kind of getting back to JD's question, if you're working on a fintech platform, um, obviously, if you can get large investors, you want to do that. But if we're looking purely at regulation crowdfunding, we're looking at being able to bring on small investors. One of the things that I recommend to fintech platforms is make your offer so that one of the rewards is access to the platform, right? So if I invest $100, maybe I get to be on the platform for a year at no cost. Why do I do that? Number one, I'm getting the investment dollars, but number two, and probably much more important, is I am going to be able to get users on the platform. Those users on the platform, because they are investors, are going to have the opportunity to engage with me, tell me things that I can do to improve the platform, right? Because now these people are my crowd, and that's something that I haven't really spoken about tonight. But I like to talk about the return on crowd. And when you have people who invest in your company, you're going to get three things normally. You're going to get an investor, obviously, right? But you're going to get a customer, and you're going to get a brand advocate. So, depending on what the product is, right, especially if it's consumer facing, then people are going to buy your product. And I'm going to give you an example of that in just a moment from a campaign that I managed. And then people are going to tell everybody else they know about the product because they now have a financial benefit tied into that. So if I'm selling a platform that helps people do digital marketing, right? As just a for instance, then I'm going to be looking at getting the businesses and the individual people who are going to use that platform to invest in that opportunity, because again, they have become an investor, they have become a customer, and they have become a brand advocate for your particular platform. When you
Can
look
you
at
give
other,
us an example? I'm sorry.
oh yeah,
Like of a
absolutely.
company that
Yes, absolutely. So there was a company. There was a company that I worked with called Pure Light, and they sold a light bulb that when the light bulb was turned on, this coating actually helped reduce smells and odors in the air. Which it was really a powerful light bulb. So I really hate to name the company because of what I'm going to say next, but
well, be careful. We don't want nobody coming after us.
the valuation of the company was too high, right? It was out of line with the revenue that the company was generating. So the platform suggested to us that it was going to be very hard to get people to invest. We suggested that to the founder, but again, you get to set the terms, so no one can tell you that you can't raise. So as we went through the process of evaluating the assets that this company had, one of the things that was very interesting about this company is that they had 15,000 paid customers. So they had an email list with 15,000 people who had parted with their money for the product. So we said, oh yeah, we're going to absolutely take this campaign on. And we didn't get any large investors except for the lead investor that he invested a lot of money. But everyone else invested small amounts of dollars. And we had 412 investors. We raised, the goal was 250,000. We ended up raising 268,000. So we actually oversubscribed. And you can see that, right? You can go to the WeFunder platform. You can look up Pure Light and you can see that. I can't make that up. But what you don't see is that year over year, we were able to increase sales by 250%, right? And the way we were able to do that is because we had these people who were now investors who were now buying the light bulbs, and they were also telling their friends about the light bulbs. During the course of the campaign, we offered a free, or not a free, I'm sorry, we offered a reduced code, a discount code to people, and we only gave that to people who invested. But if they so chose, they could give that code to other people that they knew in order to purchase the light bulbs. So we were able to track, based on that code, the number of people who actually purchased the light bulb based on the brand advocacy of the people who invested in the campaign. So, this is like factual, right? We have the data behind that. So that was a campaign that was really, really interesting. There was another campaign that had achieved some levels of success before they actually reached out to me to help them with their marketing. And, you know, when they reached out to me and I looked at their marketing and I did an assessment, they had over 1,500 people on their LinkedIn page who follow them faithfully, who they had never reached out to for an investment. Right. So, you know, we created a strategy to target those people on the LinkedIn page. Um, so there are many different ways that you can build this crowd. And to JD's point, it all depends on the assets that you already have, the product or service that you are raising capital for. But the most important thing is being able to tell a really good story that gets people interested, having really good assets. The video is going to be super important. So you need to have your campaign video, probably around 3.5 minutes or less. You know, there are certain elements that need to go into that, but it definitely needs to be something that has a high production value. You know, I'm not talking Steven Spielberg high production, but you can't be shot on your iPhone. Then, you know, you have to have a really good pitch deck, and you also need to have, you know, really good graphics and tell a really good story. And when you tell that really good story, it has to line up with the terms, right? So that a person will invest or won't invest, right? Because you can kind of get people interested in your product, but, you know, investors, especially serious investors or experienced investors, are going to dig deeper into the documents from your Form C. All of those will be available to them on the investment crowdfunding website. And the terms, that people are going to dig into the terms to see if these terms make sense. They're going to look at your business model to see how you're going to make money and how you are going to make a return for those people, right? Because this is investment crowdfunding, and it is very important. But it's just as important to understand that the crowd, your crowd of investors, they're taking this ride with you. They have a financial benefit tied to the success of this crowdfunding campaign. And that's why I always like to talk about that return on crowd and what that return on crowd actually looks like. And, you know, again, it's very powerful. When we worked with that Pure Light campaign, it was just incredible. You know, another campaign we worked with, when we started reaching out to customers and actually, you know, reaching out to the people who were engaging with this particular brand on LinkedIn, you know, the amount of investment dollars coming in increased because, you know, people believed in this. People had been following it and they were excited about the company and the potential of the company. And, you know, that's what's really important in the crowdfunding, is being able to tell a really powerful and compelling story, and then having your terms and documents back that story up, right? Because it is full transparency. You know, everybody's going to know exactly what you're saying is exactly what you have written. People are going to realize that if they're investing in an equity deal, that there's considerable risk in investing in that deal. If you're investing in a deal that's debt, that risk is reduced, but it's still there, right? There's always business risk. So, you know, when you think about investment crowdfunding as a mechanism for being able to raise capital, you have to think about the regulatory compliance, because there are a lot of compliances that you have to meet. The platforms are going to ensure that you meet those compliances. I always recommend that even if you do all of the paperwork, that you have an attorney take a look at it, to make sure that paperwork is, you know, is sound and compliant. You know, as you move through the process, you know, do your research, due diligence, make sure that you understand crowdfunding, make sure you understand regulation crowdfunding, make sure you understand the terms that are being offered, how those terms are being offered, that you go through. Again, all this documentation is going to be right there on the platform with the offer. Go through that, look at it. You know, and as the issuer, make sure that you have all of this stuff compliant and transparent so that people can look at it and make an informed decision. Create a really strong campaign. Promote your campaign. Promote it everywhere to everyone. You know, when you think about what that looks like, If you're running an active campaign, put that in your email signature. Sending people to the platform, put the link in there. Social media, email marketing, text marketing. When you talk to people, if people come into your business, have a QR code where they're able to scan that code and it takes them directly to the platform in case they're interested in being able to invest. Always be transparent. That's just a rule of thumb. Always be transparent. Always tell the truth. Let people know exactly what's happening, exactly what's going on, where you are, in the business, in the process, and managing expectations, right? That's really important. And as a consultant, when I work with people, I try to manage people's expectations. So the first way that I do that is talking about a use of funds. So a use of funds is going to be one of those documents that is going to be required. So what are you going to do with the money? If you raise this money, what are you going to do with it? And you want to be able to tell people that if I'm able to raise $1 million, this is what I'm going to do to increase the bottom line of my business. If I'm able to raise $1 million, as an example, for government contractors, I am going to be able to purchase, 2 more trucks, which is going to allow us to get, to move up from, a $2 million contract to a $5 million contract, right? I'm kind of reaching for that, but you kind of understand exactly what I'm saying there, that you want to be able to tell people what you're going to do with this money, and not that you're just going to buy equipment, but if you buy this equipment, how that is going to add to the bottom line, because these people are investing and they're looking for a return. So, definitely always be transparent with people. Use that use of funds statement to tell people exactly what you're going to do with their money. And when I say manage expectations, a lot of times I'm talking about the issuers themselves, because you can raise $5 million doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be able, right, to raise $5 million. By law, you can, but if you only have 1,000 people, who are going to back your campaign, unless they're investing a lot of money, each person, then, you're not going to be able to do that. So be able to look at your crowd, gauge your crowd, the crowd that you have, and understand how much you're really going to be able to invest. And also, it's very important that you know how much you need, right? What is the minimum that you need to grow your business? Because that's really where you should be looking. And anything else is kind of the cherry on top of the parfait, right? But being able to get the minimum of what you need, that's what's really important. So unless there are any more questions, that's really all I have. If there are any more questions or something you'd like me to specifically drill down into, I can absolutely do that.
It's been awesome. Can you hear me?
Just barely.
Okay, I had to switch devices here. I think I'm coming in on the right one. Let's see here. It might be that. Hold on. Let me maybe unmute this one. Can you hear me?
I
Can
can
you
hear
hear me?
you, but you're still very low.
Okay. Okay. So we're at 8:05, and I would like it if you would tell folks how they can reach out to you, how they can connect with you. I'm encouraging everyone to connect with Bill, and hopefully let's show Bill some love so he'll be back, and this won't be the last time. But yeah, let them know how to find you. If you've got the ebook, you've got some other stuff, post it. If you can go to LinkedIn, Bill, and post the link of whatever resources you'd like for them to have, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for that opportunity. And I especially want to thank everyone in the audience who took time out of their busy schedules to come and listen to me tonight. I know that everyone is busy, and I really appreciate that. And, hope I was able to add value to everyone, because that's always my goal. So the best place to find me is on LinkedIn at Bill Houston 1, Gary Holdings. I'm on LinkedIn every day. Every day I check LinkedIn, many a times. I post to LinkedIn on a very regular basis. So that's the best place to find me. If you're new to crowdfunding, if you're new to this space and you're looking for just free, information, right, that's packaged. And I say that because there's nothing that I know that can't be Googled, but Google doesn't package it for you. So I have a blog post on my website at crowd-max.com. There are over 100 blog posts there, and if you go to the Bill Houston YouTube channel, I have over 100 videos that you can watch about crowdfunding and investment crowdfunding. They're absolutely free. It's a great opportunity to learn about crowdfunding in a very packaged way, right? Unlike information that you might Google, this information is very targeted, and and it's there for people. One of the things that I say to people is that I've worked on 15 investment crowdfunding campaigns. 13 of them have been successful. We've been able to raise over $1.5 million for businesses. So the one thing that I will say is that I have experience in this space. I want to say expertise, but that might be boasting. But I definitely have experience in this space. So the information that you're able to glean from my website and from my YouTube channel are based on the experiences that I've had. Actually working on campaigns and working with founders. And anyone who will send me an email at Bill Houston at crowd-max tonight, I'll send you a complimentary ebook. Just let me know that you saw me on the show tonight. And of course, if you go to my website, there's a downloadable ebook there as well. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. I had a little bit of audio there. Would you tell me your email again? Is it Bill Houston
Bill
no
Houston, and that's Huston.
spaces?
Houston,
And then
Huston, at crowd,
at
CROWD dash max, MAX.com.
gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. I'm putting Bill's information in the chat. Please share him some love. Please, comment here. Tell folks how what an amazing session this was. If you'll put one takeaway that you got from this generous human being, Bill Houston, who shared a plethora of valuable information with us. Would really appreciate that. Again, I want to thank you for joining Demystifying Government Contracting. We got the opportunity to talk about how crowdfunding can boost your small business success. Uh, you could have been anywhere in the world doing whatever you wanted to do, but you made a decision to be right here, investing and learning more about your business, about how you can speed up your business journey. I don't take that for granted. Time is very precious, it's very valuable. So I want to applaud you for making that investment. And then last but not least, I'd like to end like I do most of my sessions and just pour out a blessing to you. May God bless you. Oh, bless you. Oh, bless you indeed. May He enlarge your territory. Um, may He order your steps. May He increase your influence. May He lead you to those who can provide you with prosperity in your business. May He keep you from evil, and may He keep evil from you. Because what we do know is it can be ugly out there. And that's what demystifying government contracting is all about. It's about demystifying that information, providing you with clear context of the information so that you can do more research on your own. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining. I hope you'll come back. And we'll see you next week. For those of you who are with us every week, That same. We'll see you later. Good night.
Good night. Thank you all.